Christ is in our midst.
He is there.
Let's see who's here so that I can choose the right words. In the epistle, first of all, in the epistle, one line just stands out very profoundly, very short. Do all of your work in love. Did you hear that? Do all of your work in love. Now you have work to do. You have a lot of work to do. But how do I do it? Do I do it begrudgingly? Do I do it violently? Do I do it carelessly? Or do I do it in love? In love. What does that mean for you? To do all your work in love? Well, it's the opposite of what happened in the gospel. The exact opposite. Now in the gospel, this gospel makes me really shudder. Because there's not a person in this church. That's why I looked around. I want to make sure I'm not seeing anybody glowing, Not a person here that has not, at least at one time in their life, tried to seize control. Tried to be in control. Tried to take control of something. Even something as simple as try to take control of my own life, my own destiny, my own agenda, my own schedule. I can't even do that very well. But how does it work? How does it work for you when you try that? It's not a good thing. Especially if you taste a little bit of success with it at the beginning. I am in control of everything. I just read in one of the fathers, if you think you're in control and someone compliments you and gives you a great flattery and every kind of compliment, he said, don't pay attention. Instead, go and you do the same thing out in the cemetery. You go out in the cemetery and give them all big compliments, right? And listen. See if you affect them. Then he came back and he said, did you affect them? They said, no. No response. Well, how about this? Criticism. Attacks. Because, they don't like your control of the agenda. How about all of that? Criticism. Boom. You're doing terrible. Blah, blah. Go out in the cemetery. Tell them that. So, he goes out in the cemetery and he starts criticizing the ones who are lying there. No response. Came back and he was frustrated. He said, I can't get any response out of these people, whether compliment or criticism. The teacher said, you do the same. If you're like that, you'll never have to worry 1 second about being in control of anything and trying to please everybody and trying to dance around life. Just for the sake of your own safety or your own security or your own pleasure. Take an example. Take a lesson from be dead, in your feelings like that. And then we'll have peace. We'll have peace. But then we have this gospel. In this gospel, these people are given a little job to do, They were what they call in the old language husbandmen, husbandmen, to do husbandry of the vines. They gave them a garden, basically. And all of a sudden, in their minds, they want to control the garden. They want not only control it, they want to own it. They want to own it. I have a better idea. I can own this garden. Already, you see, going off the tracks. They're being derailed. Because I think I can be in control. I think that I can do a better job. So whenever they're supposed to give whatever fruits and the work of their hands, they kill. They beat the ones who are coming to collect. They beat them up. They kill them, including the very Son of God, right? They kill the Son. That beautiful parable is not only meant for the Jews who did that, they killed all the prophets and they eventually killed Christ, the greatest of the prophets and the reason for the prophets. Not only that, but for us too. Do we not continue to want to somehow seize control? And sometimes, maybe even, I know a little bit better than Christ. Like, I know how to do this for myself. I know how to live my life, and I know what the Lord said, but I know me. I'm in control. I'm in total control. Are you? Jesus predicted it. That last line makes all the difference in that gospel. He predicted not only that the Jews would do that, and the Romans, and whoever literally killed him and the prophets, but he predicted it for us. He prophesied for us. He said, don't worry. I know this is happening. This must happen, because in your weakness, people, I am made strong. And he says that beautiful line. Did you not know that the stone which the builders rejected, you know what the stone was? It was Jesus. It was Christ. And there's a lot of teaching about that stone, but that was the strong stone, the headstone. They say the keystone. You know what a keystone is? It's like the stone that would be right here. Like if you had a wall or an arch or whatever, the stone right there kind of holds. If you take that stone out, the whole thing collapses, right? That's the headstone. That's the keystone. And he said, didn't you know that they threw me away? Basically, Jesus is saying. They threw me away because they wanted control. Adam and Eve did it. They started it. Every generation from then till now continues to try to do it. But I knew that was going to happen. This is the prophecy. This is why he gives that parable. They threw the keystone away, but that's the very one upon which we will build the church. We will build a solid foundation. And you, if you come to your senses, that is, and don't try to take that place right there, we can all support that place. Because this is the body of Christ. This is that which was built upon that one foundation, which is Christ. So what happens when people say, yeah, but I'm not good at that. I offend Christ. Like, it's almost easier to say, I want to be in control of my own. I want to be in control of my family. I want to be in control of my children. I want to be in control of my job. I want to be in control. It's almost easier to do that. It is easier to do that than to say, I'm out of control. I have no control over anything. But eventually, God willing, the hard knocks of life, wham, wham, the waves of life, wham. We need them. We need them terribly. Because as they hit us, it's like if you listen to that little voice, you're not in control. You're not in control. I'm in control. We can finally come to our senses. And when we come to our senses, we take our place, supporting that pillar, supporting that foundation. And that foundation is Christ. But in order to do that, I have to be able to say to myself at some point, I am a supporter. I am a servant, if you will. I am a slave. I am not the master. I am not in control. And you know what? The minute we do that, we begin a new process. We begin the process then, we can call it the process of salvation, but we begin the process then of learning a lot of things about ourselves. You can learn much about God by just taking that first step and saying, you are the master, I am the stone, supporting the big stone. Let me try that. Let me actually center my whole life around that reality. Let me try not focusing everything on me as the big stone. I'll support. You'll find that your life is going to change from that point on. You're going to learn that, my goodness, it's much more natural I feel much more natural when I'm actually supporting another. When I'm actually totally worshiping God with my life. And then by extension, totally supporting and serving the rest of my family, my parish, my city, my job, the people that I work with. If I'm with them, if I'm supporting them, if I care about them, right? And if I know that I'm not the center, I'll never, ever think about murder. Does this gospel, does it make you shudder because of what you're seeing today in the streets, right? When they killed the Son of God, or when they killed the one who was the son of the vine hole, the garden, when they killed that one, did they think that they were going to all of a sudden take over? Did they think, now I'm in control, finally? No. The Lord asked the question, and they said, He will have them, punished severely, and somebody else will just take over that. What do we think we're in control of when we're attacking each other, fighting each other? If I hear one more stinking political argument, I think I'm going to live in a cave. That's it. Because it makes no sense to me. I hear this one over here talking, wah wah, wah 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 wah. Then I hear this one over here, the opposite, wah wah, wah wah wah. And after a while, hey, you know what? That's all the same language. If you translate that language, it is, I want to be in control. Let us kill the Son. We will then take over. That's all I hear. Isn't that all you hear anymore? And then they actually go out and kill each other. And it's happened, by the way, now, since the time of Christ and before, but for 2,000 years roughly, it's been happening over and over again. How can I break that sequence? How can I change that reality? Well, for one thing, I don't have to buy into the fact that there's either this or this. But I can be supportive of Christ, right? And then I can speak with a full voice. If I'm not pretending that I'm the keystone. Because once a person says, I am in charge, I am the keystone, all is lost. It doesn't matter what anybody else says from that point on, all is lost. But the minute the person says, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I am not everything. Maybe I am like a little speck of dust. And as such, I have a job. I have a good job. And back to the epistle. So maybe that job, I should do it in love. If I have work to do, even if I have something to say, why don't I try doing it in love? Because St. Paul says, do all of your work in love. Not just the one job that we're doing at the time. Do all of your work in love. You'll find yourself not trying to tell other people what to do as a start. I know there are people, even in this parish, who love to tell other people what they should be doing. Why? Why would you even make a suggestion like that? Here I stand, and because you pay me like $1 million, I have to teach you something. I have to say something. I have to make a suggestion. One day that will end, I promise. But I scratch my head and I say, why would brother so-and-so look at brother or sister so-and-so and tell them what they're doing wrong? Do you not know that you're not? I know that I'm not that person, and yet I dare to open my mouth. Somehow he gives a blessing for that. But why would we do that? Can you tell me? Why would we have an opinion with someone else and say, do you know, you should not be doing this? Or you should be doing this. If I hear that, my head explodes. I say, what? How have you somehow taken on owning the garden, owning the vineyard? Think about it. I think we've all done it, to some degree or another. I think we've all tried to be in control. And when we do that, I promise you, we're the most out of control that we will ever have been or be in our lives. The most out of control. Because we don't see the depth of our own heart. If you can control that, in other words, if Christ is fully there, and if I can control that inner chamber of my heart, I have everything. If I'm not paying attention to that, and I'm actually paying attention to what you're doing, or what you're doing, like even in confession. Can I make a confession? If I hear a confession and somebody tells me something, it goes like here, like an arrow into my heart, like, I really shouldn't get involved in this, right? I shouldn't really get involved in this. I should just pass it over in silence. Just, here, Lord, this is your business. This is your person. You are in control. You are the keystone. And yet, here's the dangerous position. But they need to hear some word. They need to hear the voice of someone to get them like past that tenuous spot. He better be in control. He better be speaking. Whenever I dare to open my mouth, he better be talking. Otherwise, I'm lost. I am dead already. In hell already. He better be talking. So do you do that? Like before you say something to someone else, like, hey, you need to do this, or you are doing this, or do you do that? Do you tremble a little bit and look at this formation here, this keystone, and say, do I have a blessing to do that so that big stone doesn't just crush me and fall on my head for speaking out of turn, out of bounds? Turn on the radio. Turn on the television. Open well, I guess they don't use newspapers anymore, right? Turn on the computer. And you'll hear many people, I'll say taking control, but it's not really taking control. It's trying to be in control, right? Which is a futile, empty exercise in life. The wisest people are the ones, maybe they've been bashed, like I said, enough times where they just shake their head and they question everything about themselves. They say, I don't know anything. The holiest people I've ever known have always tried to get out of giving me advice by saying, why are you asking me? I don't know anything. One of them even said to me one time, I'm a donkey. They said, I'm a donkey. You're asking me? And I had to fight with them to get like some little word, some little like wisdom that I needed. Are we like this? Are we like this? If we're not like this, let's like draw a diagram like that on our hearts and have Christ right at the center of it. And then everything else about what's going on in my heart is in support of that. Everything else which is going on in my family is in support of that. Everything else which is going on in my brotherhood, and my sisterhood, and my job, and my school, and, is in support of that, right? Maybe you'll have a little bit of peace then. And maybe, just maybe, you won't be so quick. I won't be so quick to point out how terrible everybody else is when they're trying to be in control of whatever they're doing. Because I'll be blind. I'll be free from blindness. And I'll be able to actually see that, wow, they might be actually gardening better than I am. They are not murdering the owner of the garden. They are not trying to seize all of the property. They know their place. And they know that if the gardener comes back, if the master comes back and sees them doing their job, right, he will exalt them. He will give them some control because he will be sharing his ownership with them. It's not for us to seize it. It's for him to share it. It's not for us to steal it. God forbid. It's for him to bestow it as a loving Father. Amen.